This September, at least 7 Kirkland products are seeing sharp price hikes at Costco. Some have nearly doubled in price, even though they were once considered core value staples in many households. We are not talking about rare or luxury items. These are everyday essentials that millions of American families rely on. And when even Kirkland starts slipping out of reach, it raises a tough question: what else at Costco can we still count on to fit our budget? But you are not completely out of options. There are deals and simple tricks that, if you know them ahead of time, can still shave a big chunk off your spending. Stick around to find out which 7 items are quietly eating into your budget and the smarter ways you can shop this month. Number 1. Kirkland Signature Colombian Coffee. The question is, how much actual coffee is left in a cup of Kirkland these days? What used to be a no-brainer staple in the shopping cart is now making people pause before grabbing it. Not because tastes have changed, but because the price tag and the ingredient label seem to be telling 2 very different stories. A 3-pound can of Kirkland Signature Colombian Coffee now sells for nearly $20 in many states, compared to around $10 just a year ago. But what worries people more is that in recent batches, customers have noticed a clear change in flavor. A faint burnt smell, an unusually bitter aftertaste, and most of all, that artificial feeling once the cup is finished. Some batches still carry the label 100% Colombian. Yet independent consumer tests found that a small portion of them contained caramelized flavor additives used to cover flaws from over-roasting. Not every batch has it, but when production is this massive and batch origins are unclear, the real risk is no longer about price. It is about that sense of helplessness. Many shoppers once chose Kirkland specifically to avoid canned coffee with added flavors. Now it might be happening inside Kirkland itself, only no one is openly saying it. The worst part is not everyone notices. For those who drink coffee with milk or sugar, the changes are so subtle they slip by until the body reacts or the packaging quietly shifts. If you still want to buy it, there are 2 smart ways to go. One is to time your purchase with Costco's coupon book, which often shaves a few dollars off this line of coffee. The other is to try Costco Next, where you can find coffee from outside suppliers with more transparent quality. The original question still does not have a clear answer. But when a brand starts making you doubt the very thing you once trusted most, that is no longer just another product. That is a warning. Number 2. Kirkland Organic Eggs. There was a time when organic eggs cost just over $3 a carton, tucked neatly in the cooler at the end of the produce aisle. Shoppers grabbed one without even thinking. Now you have to look twice at the price tag before putting it in the cart. A 24-count carton of Kirkland Organic Eggs now runs over $8 at many Costco locations, with some even hitting $9. In less than a year, this price spike has forced many households to cut back on what used to be a basic staple. Not because diets have changed, but because costs keep climbing without pause. After the avian flu outbreak stretched from 2023 into early 2024, egg-laying flocks never fully recovered. Then new import restrictions tightened the supply chain even further. Domestic eggs, especially organic, have turned into a cyclical shortage. By mid-month, many stores report selling out early. For some shoppers, it is no longer about choosing a grocery item. It is about holding on to one of the few foods they trust not to compromise their health. Organic eggs are a key protein source for people on special diets, those managing diabetes, following low-carb or cholesterol-conscious plans, or cutting out red meat. Eggs become the fallback. And when eggs get more expensive, it is this group who feel the impact first. Many families have cut their weekly usage in half, or limited eggs to breakfast, only instead of using them throughout the day. Others have switched to regular eggs, but then face the trade-off of higher exposure to hormones and antibiotics versus protecting their health. For those still committed to Kirkland Organic Eggs, there are a couple of ways to soften the blow. Costco currently offers a $20 to $40 shop card for new or renewed executive memberships. That credit can be applied at checkout toward any purchase. Also, at certain points in the quarter, organic eggs show up in surprise midweek markdowns. Another strategy is to shop early in the morning, right when shipments arrive, avoiding the need to buy from resellers or pay inflated prices during peak hours. Price hikes are out of your control, but how you respond to them is not. Some items can be swapped out with frozen foods, plant-based meals, or alternative proteins. But for certain people, an egg is the one thing that has to stay on the plate. And when even that begins slipping out of reach, the worry is no longer just about money. It is about the creeping loss of control over your own health. Number 3, Kirkland Sweet Cream Butter. At this rate, butter might as well be publishing books with how expensive it's gotten. In just 6 months, a 4-stick pack of Kirkland butter has jumped from $10.99 to nearly $17 in many states. And what stings most is that this product has exactly 2 ingredients: cream and salt. No preservatives, no herbs, no black garlic from some exotic region. Yet its price has climbed faster than imported beef. Retailers often blame production costs or fresh milk shortages. But if you look closely, the same type of butter at certain local shops or farmers markets can be nearly 30% cheaper, not because it's lower quality, simply because it doesn't carry the Kirkland label. Kirkland used to stand for transparency and value. Now even a basic stick of butter feels like something you need to second guess. Vegans won't touch it. Low-fat dieters avoid regular butter altogether. And the rest of us are left calculating every slice we spread in the morning. The most frustrating part isn't the price hike itself. It's the lack of a convincing explanation. There's no widespread milk shortage, no import crisis, no dairy cows caught up in a war. Yet the cost keeps climbing. And it just so happens to spike right when more families are ditching vegetable oil in favor of real butter. So butter is sliding into the category of unnecessary luxury. Consumers are being forced to choose between pricey pre-cut sticks or bulky 1-pound blocks that have to be portioned out by hand. The one practical hack: if your household goes through butter regularly, buy the 4-pound block usually sold in the refrigerated bulk section. Slice it into smaller portions at home, wrap tightly, and freeze. This method can cut the unit price by nearly 20% compared to the stick packs. The butter itself hasn't changed, but the way it's being sold has. And it seems the old belief that Kirkland is always cheaper is starting to melt away literally. Number 4, Kirkland Roma tomatoes. The tomato section at Costco used to be the easiest stop in the store. Just bend down, grab a pack that looks firm and evenly ripe, and you're done. $6 a tray, always consistent in color, neatly packed. But now shoppers linger a little longer. Not because they're being pickier, but because they're double-checking the price. Kirkland Roma tomatoes are now selling for anywhere between $8.49 and $9.29 for a 2-pound pack in some regions. The increase has been creeping up quietly but steadily since the start of Q3, and for a crop long considered easy to grow, easy to sell, and near doubling in just a few months, has left many people uneasy. The reasons stack up quickly. California, which supplies most of America's Roma tomatoes, is in the middle of a prolonged drought with strict irrigation limits now in place. Some major farms in Fresno and Merced County have already reported cutting back nearly 30% of their acreage just in Q2. On top of that, tariffs on Mexican tomato imports tightened in June, removing what used to be the cheaper backup option. As fresh tomatoes shift from kitchen staple to optional extra, many households have turned to jarred sauces or tomato puree instead, but the market was one step ahead. Prices for bottled tomato sauce, including Kirkland's, have climbed as well from $5.99 to $7.49, with certain varieties facing periodic shortages. The real problem isn't just the numbers, it's the growing sense of losing control. When meat prices rose, people ate more vegetables. When dairy prices spiked, they turned to grains or plant-based meals. But now even something as basic as tomatoes no longer works as a fallback option. Some shoppers are switching to frozen pre-packed tomatoes about 25% cheaper and perfectly fine for cooking, though not for fresh salads. Others are leaning on local farmers markets or weekend community stands where prices are usually lower, especially if you shop closer to late morning. Still, for families that use tomatoes 4 or 5 times a week, today's prices are putting direct pressure on monthly grocery budgets. No one knows when supply will level out again, or whether this fall will bring any batches close to the old price point. And when foods that used to anchor a healthy diet start slipping out of reach, The question isn't just what can I substitute anymore. It becomes how much faith can you really put in tomorrow's price tag? Number 5. Kirkland lettuce. This is no longer the kind of purchase you can make with just a glance. A single head of Kirkland romaine lettuce is now selling for over $5 at many Costco locations, with some stores hitting $5.79 after tax. But what frustrates shoppers more than the price is the size of the product. Most packs are clearly smaller than before, yet they're still bundled in the same count and sold at a higher price. It's the classic move of shrinkflation, less product, same label, quietly higher cost. The catch is that it's nearly impossible for customers to judge the difference on site. They only realize it when the lettuce wilts faster, tastes less fresh, or simply doesn't last as long as it used to. For people on diets, or anyone managing conditions that require cutting back on carbs and sodium, leafy greens are non-negotiable. A simple salad often feels like the only way to avoid carbs, fast food, or preservatives. So when salad itself starts to feel like a luxury, many families don't know what else they can cut back on. To be fair, not all of the price jump is on the retailers. Rising costs for refrigerated transport, drought conditions in California, and stricter import limits on Mexican produce all play a role. But when Kirkland, a brand built on the promise of long-term value, starts leaning on shrinkflation, instead of simply raising prices transparently, shoppers can't help but feel misled. The frustration isn't just about the wallet. It's about being treated as if customers aren't sharp enough to notice. And it's a shame because lettuce used to be one of the most accessible, affordable symbols of a healthy meal at Costco. Now it's become a textbook example of losing control over both price and value. Not everyone has the space or time to grow their own produce. But if you've got a small yard, a bit of soil, or even a few old containers, planting lettuce at home is more appealing than ever. From seed to harvest takes just 30 to 45 days, and some varieties can even be picked more than once. If that's not an option, frozen salad mixes are a fallback. They're not crisp, but they work just fine for stir-fries, soups, or as a side in smaller meals. The real loss isn't a single head of lettuce. It's the feeling that something once simple, reliable, and grounding in everyday meals is now shifting in ways no one can fully explain. Number 6. Kirkland frozen mixed vegetables. This used to be one of those no-brainer buys. Walk past the freezer spot, the Kirkland mixed veggies, toss a bag in the cart. Convenient, easy to store, perfect for everything from soup to fried rice. The price was steady, the quality reliable, and nobody had a complaint for years. But lately something feels off. The price of this 5-pound bag has climbed from $8.99 to nearly $12.49 at many Costco locations. In some regions, the total runs even higher once taxes and transport fees are added. And yet the product is the same old mix of frozen corn, carrots, peas, and green beans. The problem isn't the ingredients, it's the shipping. After this year's fuel hikes, cold container operators across the board raised their rates. Keeping a frozen supply chain running across state lines now costs nearly 30% more than it did last year. On top of that, Costco's distribution hubs have reduced delivery frequency, which stretches the turnover time for inventory. Those changes are starting to show up in what customers bring home. Some bags now have dried-out corn carrots that look faded or peas that turn mushy after thawing. Not every bag, but enough to spark doubts, is the consistency people once trusted still holding up. Many shoppers chose frozen vegetables over fresh for two simple reasons: affordability and convenience. One bag could last a week without spoilage or the hassle of washing and prepping. But if the quality slips and the price starts creeping closer to fresh produce, that advantage begins to disappear. If you still want to keep buying this without feeling shortchanged, there are two strategies worth considering. First, watch for instant savings events. They usually pop up once or twice a quarter and can knock $2 to $3 off per bag. Second, split a bag with family or friends if you can't finish it within 2 weeks. Breaking it down reduces the risk of losing quality from long storage. Frozen vegetables used to be the solution. Now they've become a question, and not everyone has an answer ready when they open the freezer door. Number 7. Kirkland organic canned beans. Have you ever had to think twice about cutting back on canned beans? It sounds a little ridiculous, but that's exactly what's happening for many families staring at the price tag on Kirkland organic canned beans. An 8-pack, once the affordable and nutritious answer for a quick meal, now runs close to $12.99 at many Costco stores. In some places, it's already over $14, which breaks down to nearly $1.75 a can, a price point that used to be reserved for imported specialty products. This jump isn't about the beans themselves. Beans are easy to grow, easy to store, and don't swing wildly with the seasons. But in 2025, when fresh produce has doubled, lettuce tops $5 a head, and tomatoes and butter have turned into luxuries, shoppers are leaning hard on shelf-stable substitutes. And canned organic beans have become one of the first things people reach for. Demand has spiked, supply hasn't caught up, and the price tag tells the story. For those following low-sodium diets, diabetics, or anyone relying on plant protein over red meat, beans are almost impossible to give up. They're simple to cook, require no prep, and don't carry the same risks as sodium-packed or heavily processed foods. But at these prices, people are starting to pause before popping open a can. And that hesitation carries a financial weight that isn't always visible at first glance. The burden doesn't come from just one item. It's the stack of small things in the cart. A carton of eggs, a bag of veggies, a pack of beans, each rising by only $1 or $2. But across a month, that adds up to an extra $40 to $60 on groceries. For anyone living on a fixed income, that's not a small bump. That's a cut straight into stability. If you still need organic canned beans without swallowing the full price hike, there are 2 practical moves. First, take advantage of Costco's price adjustment policy. If something you bought goes on sale within 30 days, you can request a refund of the difference at the service desk. Second, consider signing up for a new membership or upgrading to executive. Costco is still offering shop cards worth $20 to $30, which can offset part of a grocery bill. And if you've got the time and set up, cooking dried beans at home is still the cheaper long-term play. It takes more effort, but for people managing health conditions, the payoff is lower sodium, no preservatives, and better control over what goes into each meal. A can of beans used to be a smart solution. Now it's turning into a test of how far a wallet can stretch. And when even pantry staples become a second guess, shoppers are left with no choice but to calculate harder and stay sharper than ever. Prices are shifting week by week, and the products most familiar to us are often the ones changing most quietly. Not everyone notices. Not everyone has the time to double-check every carton of eggs, every bag of lettuce, every can of beans. This video can't cover every single item. But if you've spotted something you buy regularly that suddenly jumped in price, share it in the comments below. The more people speak up, the harder it is for quiet markups to slip by unnoticed. We can't stop inflation, but we can prepare for it, stay alert, and make smarter choices when we know it's coming.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.